Joining us on the debate on what the citizens can expect from the ANC Manifesto, we have in studio Alex Mdakane from the Youth or the Young Communist League of South Africa, Gauteng Provincial Secretary. And via Skype, we have political analyst, Professor Sipho Siepe. And you at home, you're most welcome to give us a call on 011-542-2186 or on Twitter at ANN7TV, or you can streamline ann7.com/live-TV. I just need to apologize for the delay when it comes to Skype as we engage Professor Siepe. But let's start in studio. Thanks so much, Alex, again, for making it this evening. We're expecting Mamnomvula Mukonyana as their campaign chair to be with us, but I suppose they've got their hands full. Just a very quick question. When it comes to electioneering, there's obviously a lot of effort that is put into persuading and reminding voters as to what the ANC has done. There's that element of nostalgia, taking it to 20 years of liberation, democracy, and providing certain basic necessities. What are your concerns, though, that, you know, are we in tune with the voters, the constituents, or is it just an opportune moment every time we want votes?
Well, it's a two-way street. Good evening to the viewers at home. It's a two-way street, basically. Look, you have a situation where the leadership in the upper structures, for instance, are trying to reach out to the communities, but you've got the leadership that is in the communities, the councillors, etc., that seem to be not in tune with what is happening in their own wards. Hence the sporadic violent protests for services delivery, etc. Even though, of course, some of the protests are mired with some political violence, political, issues, party-to-party political issues, etc. But of course, amongst other things, I think our expectation as the Young Communist League of South Africa in Gauteng province is that the ANC will speak to the methods of how they are going to implement the policies that they spoke to in their previous manifesto, especially the 2014 manifesto. They spoke to health, they spoke to education, they spoke to rural development and land reform, they spoke to the creation of work and job opportunities, they spoke to the transformation of the economy in the main, as well as fighting crime and corruption. So we want to see or want to hear them, basically giving us the modalities on how they are going to implement the things that are outlined in that manifesto. Correct.
Professor Siepe, welcome and good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Just in terms of how much leg room, or rather elbow room, to maneuver the ANC has, particularly in areas that are distressed. It has been 23 years of democracy, and particularly when it comes to issues of education, basic amenities, housing, sanitation, etc. There are areas in our society that are lacking. What do you think the ANC would be able to articulate to the voters that will give them a sense of confidence that things will indeed be expedited?
Well, I think the first thing that the ANC will do is to remind people that South Africa is better than what it was 20 years ago. And that is something that cannot be disputed. But most importantly, it will be able to also indicate that it accepts that there are challenges of delivery. Hence, sometimes we have had this sporadic protest. But most importantly, what this meeting does for the ANC, it helps it to refocus away from the obsession that we've seen around President Jacob Zuma to more about what people are concerned about. Because most of the protests that you find, whether it's in Gauteng, whether you find in Eastern Cape, it's all about service delivery. And I would also say, and really challenge people to say, how many of those have more to do with the obsession that we have ourselves? Because when you look at some of the role that the opposition parties have been engaged in, it has been less about those issues. So the ANC can use this opportunity to begin to say, we know that you have challenges with regard to water. We know you have challenges with regard to education. We know that you have got challenges with transport and all those issues that people protest about. And as your guest also indicates, that it's a two-way street. The ANC must also talk to its leaders on the ground, because you have leadership, but you also have leadership in the communities that are also members of the ANC.
Professor Siepe, we shouldn't also trivialize the other sector, or what has been termed the dissenters, and criticizing particularly the precedent in his capacity as the president of the country, for not taking accountability and not doing enough to appease those that say, look, you have erred, and we know that that is human, but you need to do more, and the right thing to do is to step down. So we can't trivialize people's emotions in that sense.
No. Let's get that straight. What we have here, and this is what I always say to people, we must accept that you have opposition parties and you have people who are anti-ANC, and they have a right to do so. But we should not assume that they would have supported the ANC even if the president was not incorrect. These are the same people who never supported Mandela, despite the fact that Mandela is presented as a saint. So we must accept that reality. And the ANC right now, what has lacked in the ANC, it has failed to set the agenda. It has allowed itself to be sidetracked instead of responding to these many protests. And you must look at what those protests are all about. And you will find that they are more about what people experience on the ground. What the deputy president of the ANC was saying, we are spot on to say our people want to know that we are making life better for them. So the ANC has become too engrossed in failing to set that agenda, the agenda that is rooted within the people. And these meetings should be an opportunity for them to restart that conversation.
All right, let's get a voice from the Young Communist Youth League. In the ANC of today as to the ANC of OR Tambo, Chris Hani, and Nelson Mandela, one could argue that it's not the same, and that there needs to be more a concerted effort in providing a space for the youth to take meaningful positions. And the old guard needs to make their way out. That's not going to happen soon. But in terms of prioritizing the needs of young people in the past 23 years, do you think that it is adequate? Has it been deliberate? Has it been systematic? And has it been measurable?
Okay. Let me just address the first point that you raised. You see, the issue of whether the current ANC is the same as the ANC for Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, etc., is a relative argument. The leadership, is per the dictates of the material conditions at that point in time. The ANC in exile and the ANC post the 1994 democratic breakthrough is, one and the same organization, but in terms of our political orientation and outlook at this point in time, especially post 1994, is not the same.
Yes, but the young people of this generation would have to have their own struggle stalwart, if you will.
Well, definitely. We have our own struggle stalwarts. We have your Chris Hanis of this world that we look up to. We have your Nelson Mandelas that we look up to. We have your Solomon Mahlangus. You have your Peter Mokabas. We have your Rootfest. The current living ones, your Putimana Melas, I can name them, Balulas, etc. Those are the people that we look up to. But we also need, as Obaba Osipo said, to create our own agenda. And the municipalities, as being the entities that are at the coalface of service delivery, should be our space, should be our dance floor. And there's quite a number of initiatives that we have spoken to, quite a number of government officials about as a Young Communist League. For instance, municipalities need to begin to generate their own income. They don't have to rely so much on we need the budget allocation from national, but they do not have to rely so much on the budget allocation from national. Look, for instance, your landfills where you throw away your waste, they need to be turned into income generating facilities. Your sewer plants, they need to be turned into income generating facilities. There's quite a number of products that you can get from a sewer plants, for instance. Compost, you can get glycerol, you can get clean drinking water. There's quite a number of things that municipalities can do to generate their own income, and within that space, that is where young people should come in.
Yeah, we need a new world order, a different way of thinking and being innovative, particularly at municipal level. But let's take a gesture he's been holding for a while. Thanks so much for your call, and what's your view or contribution?
My name, I'm Rishi Kiani. I'm from Durban. I'd like to comment. Due to all the issues that is currently occurring, I am a proud ANC, and I certainly support my president. However, there is a major project that Mike Zuma and I are working on with regards to BRICS and a major project that is coming on, and my party is doing well, and I'm sure I will stand, and I hope the whole country sees this when the project comes in, what my president is delivering.
All right, Jeshri,
And
thanks. All right, point taken. Doing, as you were saying, that taking the initiative and creating economic opportunities within her space. Professor Siepe, just my feeling, and this is a personal view, in that we always have this emotive kind of atmosphere and aura around the elections, where we then draw on the names of stalwarts like Chris Hani and how hard fought this the liberation has been, which is very significant in our history. But why can't we just get it right? I mean, the example with the 2010 World Cup is always a popular narrative that we can get things right if we put our mind to it and we implement and we follow through on the plan. Why is it that we're still stumbling on issues of informal settlement, the indignity of having to use abolition or non-existent toilets, etc.?
Well, first of all, we must also, there are two issues. One is about what is failure to deliver. But there's also the issue of talking about the stalwarts who had actually died. And as Mdakane indicates, that this has become almost the favorite statement, that they are not like those. But those people faced different challenges. And they would have behaved differently today, because even some of the people that were with them are the very same people that we have today. So the notion of using the dead to condemn the living is not going to work. The context of power, the context of freedom begins to shape and bring new challenges. And what we need to do is to start looking at people who are exemplary in our space, and we do have those people. And secondly, the other problem is that there's also a general sense of dishonesty in our discourse, because in as much as we want to find fault, we must also be willing to say, as the caller indicated, that what are the positive things that have actually come as a result of the people that we condemn. For instance, the issue of BRICS is something that you don't hear people talk about the possibilities. You talk about the so-called National Development Plan that we don't talk about. Yet it is this administration that has actually brought, for the first time, a document that makes us to look beyond 5 years. Because in the last 20 years, our approach was always around elections. Now we have a vision that goes beyond elections to say, where are we going as a country? And there's a success that the ANC has really done here, that you have almost all parties subscribing to that document. What they differ on is how to do, but that is actually positive. You talk about 9-point plan. We never talk about those issues in terms of how do we deal with energy, how do we deal with poverty, how do we deal with. So I think this is where the ANC itself has been weak in terms of communicating those issues, but it has allowed itself to be sidetracked. But again, we must also acknowledge failures in terms of that come as a result of incompetence, failures that come as a result of arrogance by those people who are in power. And I think the ANC is beginning to at least speak that language, to say the sense of incumbency include the distance between those elected and those who elect them. The issue of being insensitive, not responsive. And when you look at the manifestos, they begin to talk to that. Yeah. And they also talk about getting the right people with the right experience and qualifications. Because in the past, the approach has been to get people who are tried and tested in the struggle. But being tried and tested in the struggle does not necessarily make you a good official.
All right, Professor, let's give callers an opportunity. Thanks so much for holding, Mpumi, and we see you as well, Bafana in Soweto. Mpumi, we'll start with you. Hello and welcome. Hi, Mpumi.
Mvume.
Oh, Mvume, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
What's your comment or contribution?
Thanks, Cindy. Cindy, I'm thinking that the young man there, or from the Communist League, has said some mouthful when he says that employment can be created with immediate effect. But the crop of leadership that is there doesn't have the political will nor the wisdom to create spaces for that. The policies of the ANC, they don't need Professor Siepe or any other person to come and protect them. They are good, but the implementation thereof is a problem. Then when you complain, they trivialize, just like you are saying that Professor Siepe is saying it's opposition and every other person is saying it's opposition. A lot of the members of the ANC, or the supporters in particular, are supporting the policies of the ANC and they are not happy with what is happening. The membership of the ANC is about 1.5 million, but the votes were about 11 million because we support the ANC. Now they concentrate on their membership, and then they concentrate on their organization. They forget about us. When we speak, they say that we are saying a lot of nonsense.
Vume, what are you going to do then? I mean, we need to see change, obviously. It's 23 years. The manifesto hasn't shifted very drastically from 1994. It's been an add-on, an improvement of initial desires and aspirations. But what are we doing differently? What are you going to do differently?
It's difficult to do anything differently because the policies of the ANC, as I'm saying, they make sense. You read at that. I was just reading the government report of 2005. It's something that if it's implemented, if it is supported financially without the leadership of the ANC grabbing and creating tenders for themselves, if they concentrate on what they've written on paper, then we can do something. Going to vote for...
Vume, I'm so sorry. Today it's a short program, but thanks for your contribution. I want to give Bafana and Soweto also an opportunity. Sabana Bafana, welcome to ANN7 Prime.
Yes, good evening. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
All right. Listen, contrary to what the previous speaker has just said, look, we own up as the members of the ANC in terms of our own policies. If the leadership has made means and ways of making sure all of us understand those policies, we own up to those policies, and we make sure that we put our efforts in making sure that the ANC at the end of the day becomes victorious. It can't be that we exonerate ourselves all the time as members of the ANC, sit there and begin to criticize leadership. We take decisions collectively, and it is our efforts that must make sure that the ANC becomes victorious at the end of the day. So it can't be that today members will want to speak as if it is the work of the leadership only. They are also part of the leadership.
Yes, Bafana, but I think that the previous speaker was
leader.
talking more about implementation. It looks very nice in the glossy, binded brochures, but at the end of the day, if it's not felt and experienced, it's not tangible to the constituents, then it's an exercise in futility. We need to see results. That's what the previous speaker was saying.
We are the only party that makes sure that each and every time we reflect on ourselves. We check whether we have done well, where we have not done well. We're open up, and we accept the fact that we're failed. The point I'm trying to say is that we make efforts to make sure that the ANC becomes victorious in the day. We don't sit there and begin to criticize government. And the last point that I want to make it clear is that your introduction of saying probably that there are Eastern Cape members who have spoken against the leadership of the ANC. I mean, these are internal matters of ANC. And that is ill-discipline. And we would have expected them to talk about these issues inside of ANC.
All right, Bafana Nkala, can we just continue with this on Twitter? I'm really out of time. I do apologize. We try and accommodate all the views, but thanks indeed for taking the effort to speak to us. And Professor Sipho Siepe, political analyst who was with us on Skype. Alex, I'll give you the last word, literally 30 seconds, just on your expectations going forward.
Power conceals nothing without demand. Our expectation, amongst other things, is the transformation of the education sector. We want to hear the president pronounce on that. The implementation of free, compulsory and quality education, the linkages between TVET colleges and the municipalities, and the public ownership of institutions of higher learning. Those are amongst the things that we want to hear the president pronounce on.
All right, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks indeed, and thank you for watching ANN7 Prime. That's all we have for this week. We're back again first thing on Monday. In fact, there's a special broadcast tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the evening. I'll be back then. But thanks indeed for your patronage. Be abundantly blessed from myself and the crew. It's good night.